My husband cast me aside, seizing all my assets to lavish them upon his mistress. Now I'm only left with a single worn-out debit card my father had left for me. I assumed its balance was zero, but the truth of it made the bank manager tremble in absolute terror. Go ahead and let us know where you're watching from. Remember to like and subscribe so we can solve this stunning mystery together. The dense, humid heat of an Atlanta summer instantly clung to Zelika's skin the second she emerged from the Uber. She had been for 2 weeks in a small, dusty Alabama town out in the sticks caring for her mother, who had been gravely ill. With her mother's condition now stable, Zelika headed back home, yearning for her luxurious penthouse and, most of all, her husband Quincy. She wearily pulled her small suitcase across the lobby of the Sovereign, one of Buckhead's most exclusive residences in the very heart of Atlanta's affluence. A faint smile touched her lips when the elevator chimed. Its arrival on the 30th floor. She was exhausted but so relieved to be home. The hallway was cool and quiet. She stopped before door 30A, her penthouse. Zelika searched her purse and finally pulled out the key fob for the apartment. She held the card flat against the door's digital reader. Beep, beep. A red light blinked, access denied. Zelika's brow furrowed. She tried once more. Beep, beep. That's odd. Perhaps the card was demagnetized, she muttered. She rang the doorbell twice. A moment of silence passed. Then the sound of footsteps approached from within, followed by the soft click of a lock being turned on the other side. The heavy door swung inward. There stood Quincy, her husband, but this was not the Quincy she knew. The man's eyes were completely cold. He had on a silk robe, and on his neck was a fresh, bright red lipstick mark. "Oh, you're back already?" Quincy stated his words, not a welcome. It felt like Zelika's heart had stopped beating. "Quincy? Why is my key not working?" Zelika stuttered, her voice shaking uncontrollably. "Because I had the locks changed," Quincy replied flatly, still barring the doorway from inside the apartment. A woman's sharp laughter rang out. "Babe, who is that? If it's a salesperson, tell them to take a hike." A beautiful and very young woman, much younger than Zelika, appeared from behind Quincy's shoulder. Zelika recognized her immediately as Anaya, a local Instagram model gaining notoriety who always made Zelika's stomach churn. Anaya was wearing Zelika's personal silk robe, the exact one Zelika had bought herself for her wedding anniversary, just last year. Anaya's eyes raked over Zelika from head to toe, judging her simple clothes for travel, her exhausted face, and her weathered suitcase. "Oh," Anaya said with a condescending smirk. "Not a solicitor. It's the ex-wife." "Ex-wife Quincy, what is going on?" Zelika whispered, feeling a sharp burning sensation in her eyes. "Who is she? Why is she in our home? And why is she wearing my clothes?" Quincy just sighed, as if Zelika was a minor annoyance. "Listen, Zelika, it's over. We should talk downstairs. Don't cause a scene up here." Quincy gave her no opportunity to even step inside. He moved out into the hallway, pulling the door closed behind him, leaving Anaya with a smug smile on the inside. Quincy said nothing at all as they rode the elevator down. Zelika was utterly paralyzed, her mind struggling to process what had just transpired. The scent of Anaya's perfume, a costly fragrance she detested, clung subtly to Quincy's robe. The elevator doors opened to the bustling lobby's evening rush, where curious residents' eyes fell upon them. Quincy moved with haste to a secluded lobby corner near a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking Peachtree Road. Zelika followed him mechanically. "Quincy, you need to explain this," she demanded, her voice just a whisper. "What's there to explain?" Quincy retorted coldly. "Isn't it obvious we are completely overfinished? Just like that. After a decade. After I nursed your mother back from her stroke last year. After starting with you from nothing." Quincy let out a bitter laugh. "Building with me from nothing. Don't be absurd, Zelika. My success is due to my own hard work. You've just become a burden. Especially when you wasted so much time with your mother in that rural town of hers. You neglected your duties as my wife." "My duties?" "Yes, just look at yourself." Quincy gestured at her with pure disgust. "You look messy and unkempt. I'm a major developer. I need a partner who is on my level, not some housewife. Zalika's jaw went slack. The man before her was a complete stranger. Anaya. So this affair has been going on all along. Yes, for about a year now, Quincy admitted without a hint of remorse, and she truly understands me better. Just then, a security guard appeared, pushing a small worn-out duffel bag, the very one Zalika once used. From when they first arrived in Atlanta. Quincy snatched the bag and tossed it down at Zalika's feet. Its contents spilled slightly, revealing old clothes and a wallet. "These are your things. The rest is gone," Quincy stated, then threw a brown envelope on the bag. "Here are the divorce papers. I have already signed them. There's a settlement inside. Every asset, the penthouse, the cars, the company, it is all in my name. You brought nothing into this marriage, and you will leave with nothing." Tears finally streamed down Zalika's face. This was more than humiliation. It was utter destruction. "You can't do this to me." "Oh, but I can, and I have." Quincy stared back, his eyes as cold as ice. "Sign the papers. If you're smart and don't fight for assets, I might consider being generous." Enough cash for a bus ticket back to that tiny Alabama town. Murmurs began to ripple through the lobby. Zalika felt completely exposed. "Get out," Quincy hissed, "but this is also my home." "Not anymore," Quincy bellowed. "Security." Two guards came forward, looking visibly uncomfortable, but their loyalty was clearly with Quincy, the penthouse owner. "I'm very sorry, ma'am," one began. "Please try not to cause a scene," one said softly, taking her arm. Zalika was then forcibly removed. She glanced back, her desperate eyes pleading with him. "Quincy, please!" But he only stared back blankly, then turned and walked to the elevator. High above, by the mezzanine, Zalika saw the distinct silhouette of Anaya watching. Witnessing her rival's victory, the lobby's heavy glass door hissed shut on Zalika, severing her from the life of the past decade. She was cast onto the bustling sidewalk under the Atlanta sky. As it began to darken with nothing but a duffel bag of old clothes and the insulting divorce decree in her hand. In Atlanta, night descended swiftly. Streetlights flickered to life, but for Zalika, her entire world had gone dark. She wandered without purpose, the blaring horns from Peachtree's dense traffic roaring like beasts in her ears. She had absolutely nowhere to go. Her mother in Alabama was still convalescing, and she could not add this weight to her mother's burden. Her feet carried her to Centennial Olympic Park, where she sank onto a vacant bench, gazing blankly at the skyline. Her stomach knotted with hunger. She hadn't eaten all day. Ironically, all around her, restaurant patios were buzzing with life. The scents of smoky barbecue ribs, fried catfish, and sweet waffle cones wafted through the air, tormenting her empty stomach. Laughter echoed as young black couples strolled by hand in hand. Zalika felt like an unseen ghost, utterly non-existent. She opened the wallet Quincy had hurled at her. It held about $10 in cash, not nearly enough for a cheap motel on the edge of town. She frantically pulled out her phone. The battery was at a mere 5%. She scrambled to open the banking app. For their joint account, the balance zero. Quincy had wiped it clean, taking every single dollar they had together, which included the money Zalika had saved before the marriage. A cold, suffocating despair began to wrap itself around her. It was finished. She had truly hit rock bottom. Tonight she would be homeless. Silent tears streamed down her face. She glanced down again at the meager contents of her wallet. Tucked behind a card slot was a faded photograph of her father. It was her father, Diokafor, a humble tobacco farmer and merchant who passed away 10 years ago, right before she married Quincy. And tucked behind that photo was something else. Zalika's trembling fingers carefully extracted a faded blue debit card, its edges already peeling away with age. The logo was almost unreadable. Heritage Trust of the South, a small, forgotten regional bank. Zalika was floored. The memory hit her. Her father gave her this card when she was 17, right when she was first leaving home for college at Spelman. "Keep this, my baby girl." Her father's voice echoed from the past, his tone full of love. His voice was gentle yet firm. "This is an account Papa made for you. Don't use it unless you absolutely must. Don't mix it with your spending money. Pretend it doesn't exist." "How much is in there, Papa?" she'd asked with curiosity. Her father had only offered a mysterious smile. "Enough to be an anchor should you ever feel your ship is about to go under. Use it then, but as long as you can sail, leave the anchor be." Zalika had never used it. She had forgotten it completely. She was consumed with college, then met Quincy busy building her husband's empire. She had always assumed the account would have at most a few $100s, maybe some leftover unused allowance. But on this night, her ship wasn't merely sinking, it had been completely shattered to pieces. She clutched the old card tightly. The $10 in her wallet was useless, but perhaps, just perhaps, her father's money would be enough to buy a bus ticket back to Alabama. A tiny flicker of hope, as fragile as a thread, began to glow in her constricted chest. Zalika hadn't slept a wink. She huddled for refuge beneath a closed shop's awning, clutching her duffel bag fiercely. She waited for the sun to rise, feeling filthy, starved, and terrified, yet the old card offered a strange warmth. By 8 in the morning, she stood resolutely before the Heritage Trust of the South Branch. It was located on a quiet street in downtown Atlanta, a place precisely as her childhood memories recalled. A vintage stone structure seemingly frozen in time, a stark contrast to the sleek glass and steel banks that held Quincy's fortune. The interior was hushed with merely 2 tellers and a service desk. An aroma of aging paper and settled dust filled the entire room. Zalika pulled a ticket. She was the sole patron there. She was beckoned to the service desk, attended by a young man in a crisp white shirt. His name tag identified him as Kofi. "Good morning, ma'am. What can I do for you?" His tone was courteous, but his gaze held a trace of bewilderment as he observed Zalika's rather unkempt state. "Good morning," she replied, her voice raspy and low. I need to check a balance, but this card is extremely old. I can't remember the PIN either." Zalika offered him the worn, faded blue card. Kofi accepted it, flipping the card over with a frown. "My goodness, ma'am, this is an antique. That's our original logo. Is it even still valid?" Zalika inquired with apprehension. "Let me check for you, ma'am." Kofi took her ID, confirming the name Zalika Okafor, and began typing at his terminal. The computer system was sluggish. Kofi clicked his brow, furrowing once more. How peculiar," he muttered. "What is it?" Zalika's heart pounded in her chest. "The information isn't populating right away, ma'am. Our older system can be quite delayed sometimes. It appears this account is currently inactive, possibly dormant. How long has it been since the last transaction?" "Perhaps 10 years," Zalika answered with uncertainty. Kofi's eyes widened in surprise. 20 years? Please hold on, ma'am. I will attempt to access the manual server." Once more his fingers flew across the keyboard. The monitor flickered to life, displaying lines of green code, which was completely incomprehensible to Zalika. A tense quiet fell, broken only by the clatter of keys and the hum of the AC. Zalika chewed her lip anxiously. "It's gone," she mused. "The account must be closed. The funds forfeited." Kofi rubbed his head. "This is peculiar. The balance won't display, ma'am, but there's some kind of flag, a major alert attached to this account." "An alert? Do I owe money?" Zalika's voice filled with panic. No, it is not debt. I've not encountered a code like this before. One moment, please." Kofi entered a sequence of new commands. The system seemed to process for a second, and then something materialized on Kofi's monitor. His previously calm expression vanished. It transformed instantly. He grew pale, his eyes widening as they were fixed on the screen. "Mr. Kofi?" Zalika asked tentatively. Kofi remained silent, appearing completely frozen. He scanned the screen again, his mouth slightly agape in disbelief. Kofi gulped audibly. Abruptly, he shot up from his seat with such force that his chair was sent flying backward, making a piercing shriek. "Mr. Zuberi, Mr. Director." Kofi's voice was sharp, shattering the quiet of the little bank. He paid Zalika no mind. his gaze still fixed in sheer horror upon the monitor. A middle-aged black gentleman with a severe expression. Mr. Zuberi, the bank's branch manager, emerged from his office. "What is the matter, Kofi? Keep your voice down there. Our customers." Mr. Zuberi warned, his tone completely level. "I apologize, sir, but you need to see this." Kofi insisted, his hand shaking as he pointed. "An account in the name of Zalika Okafor, an inheritance from her father, Tendai Okafor." Visibly annoyed by the disruption, Mr. Zuberi sighed heavily and walked to Kofi's desk, preparing to lecture his young staff member. He glanced at the screen, and then he froze. His stern professional face crumbled in a second. His expression shifted from annoyance to utter confusion, and then to a ghastly pallor. He stared at the screen, then looked at Zalika, and then back at the screen. "Ma'am, Mrs. Zalika Al-Kafur," Mr. Zuberi asked, his once steady voice now trembling. "Yes, I am," Zalika whispered, afraid. "What's going on? Was my father a criminal?" "Kofi," Mr. Zuberi ordered, "close your window now, hang the closed sign, and bring Mrs. Zalika to my office immediately. Don't let a soul see this screen." The order was so urgent and laced with panic that Zalika jumped. Kofi, stammering, hastily put up the closed sign and turned off his display. "Please follow me, ma'am," Kofi said, now treating Zalika with a profound new respect, almost with fear. Within Mr. Zuberi's cramped office, the door was locked immediately. Mr. Zuberi paced the room for a moment before finally collapsing into his chair. His hands had a slight tremor as he powered on his desk computer. "Pardon the commotion, ma'am, you took us by surprise," Mr. Zuberi said. "Seriously, what is happening here, sir? Did my father leave a huge debt?" Zalika asked, her voice cracking as she fought back the tears. "Debt?" Mr. Zuberi managed a strained chuckle. "No, ma'am, it's quite the opposite." He turned his monitor to face Zalika. Kofi, standing in the room, pointed at the display with bated breath. "Ma'am, please take a look at this." The screen wasn't showing a currency balance but an ownership chart. "Ma'am," Mr. Zuberi stated, his voice hushed with awe, "this account is not a normal savings account. This is a master account, tied to a limited liability company, a corporation." Zalika frowned. "Corporation LLC?" "Correct, called Okafor Legacy Holdings LLC. The company was founded by your father, Tendai Okafor, in 1998, and has been dormant for exactly 20 years. But my father was simply a tobacco salesman." "That is the impression he wanted to give." "Ma'am," Mr. Zuberi interrupted. "Your father, it seems, wasn't just a salesman. He was a land broker, and a genius one at that." Mr. Zuberi clicked on a new tab on the screen. The title was Asset List Okafor Legacy Holdings LLC. Mr. Zuberi went on reading the file. "It's the legal owner of 2,000 acres of pecan groves and farmland in South Georgia, all under this title. The sole ownership was transferred completely over to you as the named heir, with a very unique stipulation." "What stipulation?" Zalika whispered. "This company activates automatically, and all its assets will become accessible to the heir only if said heir accesses this master account in a desperate situation, or if their personal account balance reads 0. Zalika's jaw dropped. Her father had anticipated this. Her eyes scanned the string of digits on the monitor. These weren't account balances but measures of vast land. There was no fainting, no outcry. Zalika just straightened her posture. The hunger, exhaustion, and humiliation from the last 24 hours simply dissolved, supplanted by something entirely different. A feeling that was cold, sharp, and powerful. Kwesi's sneer and Anaya's triumphant grin flashed in her mind. "Mr. Zuberi." Zalika spoke, her own calm, icy tone startling her. "Yes, ma'am." Mr. Zuberi observed Zalika with apprehension. The reaction of the woman seated opposite him was completely unexpected. There were no tears of relief, no shouts of elation. Her eyes, puffy from weeping just last night, were now steely. She gazed at the monitor with a chilling, formidable intensity. "Mr. Zuberi." Zalika reiterated, her tone unwavering. "What is required to activate this?" The man stammered. Well, technically, it's already operational, ma'am. The moment you logged into this account with a zero personal balance, the condition was met. Our legal department overseeing the trust is in fact now awaiting your direct orders. The junior employee Kofi quickly poured a glass of water, setting it before Zalika on the desk. Zalika ignored the drink. My father Tendai Okafor. What other information do you have about him? Mr. Zuberi slid open a drawer, retrieving a substantial dust-covered file. Your father was a valued client. From long before private banking was even a concept. He entrusted us with this letter and its legal papers. He instructed it was only for his daughter, or for us, in the event she accessed the account. He presented her with a faded yellow envelope. Zalika's hands shook while she unsealed it. Within was a single page of meticulous handwriting that read, "To my darling daughter Zalika, if you're reading this letter, it implies one of two things. The first is that your papa is gone, and you're prepared to begin your own life. The second is that things haven't worked out as you had hoped. Your papa was a salesman indeed, but I also understood this world can be unkind to wonderful black women like you. I witnessed how your mother was treated. So papa put aside a little anchor for you, not for indulgence, but to give you choices when you feel trapped. I created that desperation clause intentionally. You are intelligent, I know, but you have a tender heart. I feared that if you possessed wealth, you might draw the wrong kind of man, yet, without it, you could be mistreated by the wrong kind of man. Papa failed in only one respect. I prayed you would never have to read this, but since you are, recall my words. Do not weep or seek vengeance with sadness. Construct your own empire, my dear. Force them to regret their actions. The anchor is set. Now set your course, my daughter. Love, Papa." The tears she had fiercely held back finally started to fall. These were not tears of sorrow, but of profound comprehension. Her father, the humble salesman, had foreseen everything. He had envisioned a man like Quincy decades before he ever appeared. Zalika wiped away her tears and met Mr. Zuberi's gaze. "I require 3 things," she stated. "And what are those, ma'am?" "To begin, cash. I am utterly penniless." "Certainly. Kofi, arrange a cash withdrawal from the operational fund," Mr. Zuberi instructed. "Secondly," Zalika went on, "I require temporary lodging, a secure hotel well away from the sovereign apartment." "That is certainly manageable. We maintain corporate rates with secure hotels." "Third, and this is the most critical point," Zalika leaned in intently, "I require every piece of financial data for Okafor Legacy Holdings LLC, and I also need a recommendation for the finest business restructuring consultant, one who isn't local. I want someone from the Midtown Financial District, someone completely unacquainted with Quasi." Mr. Zuberi was momentarily stunned, impressed by the sheer composure of the woman, who just 30 minutes earlier had the appearance of a vagrant. "I have a name," Mr. Zuberi stated. "His nickname is the Cleaner. Exceptionally expensive, notoriously cold. His name is Seku." "Perfect," Zalika declared. "Give me the funds. Book the hotel for me and arrange my meeting with Seku." Zalika never checked into the hotel Mr. Zuberi booked. It was her first move to be unpredictable, after securing a substantial sum of cash enough to have made her faint yesterday. She purchased a new phone, a new number, and several sets of simple yet pristine clothing from a nearby mall. She then secured a suite at the St. Regis, one of Atlanta's most opulent hotels, under a fabricated name. For a full 24 hours, she secluded herself in the room. She ordered room service, savored her first proper meal, took a long hot bath, and slept. She allowed her mind to process the destruction and rebirth that occurred in a single day. The next morning, she did not call Seku. She understood a man like Seku would not be impressed by a phone call. Zalika went directly to the financial district in Midtown. Seku's office was high in a skyscraper, minimalist and cold, all glass and steel. Zalika, in her new clothes, simple but pristine, stood in sharp contrast to the environment. "I need to see Mr. Seku. I don't have an appointment," she informed the receptionist. "Mr. Seku is unavailable, ma'am. His calendar is booked solid for the next 2 months." Please tell him, Zalika said calmly. Zalika Okafor, owner of Okafor Legacy Holdings LLC, is here. Assets 2,000 acres. This is urgent. The receptionist hesitated, but the words, 2,000 acres, compelled her to pick up the phone. Just 5 minutes later, Zalika was shown into a corner office with a panoramic view of Atlanta. Sekou was a black man in his mid-30s who did not smile. He was dressed in a shirt with no tie, yet he exuded more formality than Kwesi ever did in his suits. His gaze was sharp, dissecting Zalika. I have only 10 minutes, Mrs. Okafor, Sekou stated, his voice a deep level monotone. Okafor Legacy Holdings, a dormant company with agricultural assets. What is the issue? Zalika took a seat without waiting for an invitation. The issue, Mr. Sekou, Zalika began, is that this company has just been awakened. The assets are substantial, but I am completely ignorant about pecans, peaches, or its operation, and I have a separate problem that requires a solution. What kind of problem? My ex-husband, an Atlanta developer. His name is Kwesi, and he will demand a share. He is unaware of this. Sekou lifted an eyebrow. This is interesting. What do you require from me? I need you to rebuild this company from its foundations, audit every detail, and make it an active, modern, and profitable enterprise. And I need you to be my personal advisor, Zalika said. I must learn how to wield this power. Sekou regarded her for a very long moment. My services come at a high price, ma'am. I'm aware, Zalika stated. I replied. I don't involve myself in personal disputes. I'm not asking you to handle drama. I am asking you to show me how to win a corporate war. The drama is merely a perk. Sekou gave a faint smile, his first. When do we start? Yesterday, Zalika said. 2 weeks flew by. Atlanta remained oblivious to what was unfolding in those offices. Zalika and Sekou's small team worked 20 hours a day. They analyzed Alcafor Legacy Holding LLC. The assets proved to be much larger than originally estimated. Zalika's father had not only purchased land, but also small stakes in various agri-food businesses, whose worth had now soared. Zalika was a quick study. She consumed financial reports, mastered property laws, and learned the basics of agribusiness management. Sekou observed her. This particular client was different. No panic, no greed, just pure focus. She was like a completely dry sponge, soaking up every piece of information. In those 2 weeks, Zalika also underwent a metamorphosis. She had her long, drab hair cut into a short, sharp, elegant bob. She purged her entire wardrobe, aided by a personal shopper that was hired by Sekou. Her closet now held custom-tailored suits, fine silk blouses, and simple yet elegant dresses in bold colors: black, navy blue, and burgundy. Reading glasses took the place of contacts. High heels replaced her sandals. But the greatest change was in her eyes. Fear was gone, and only calculation remained. Are you ready to re-enter the fight, ma'am? Sekou asked one afternoon. I am ready, Zalika confirmed. They did return to the hotel. At Zalika's direction, Sekou's team had worked quietly in Atlanta. They purchased an old mansion in the Cascade Heights district. Not a flashy new McMansion that Kwesi would prefer, but a historic, solid, elegant building that radiated an aura of old world, black power, and deep-rooted wealth. The house was purchased outright with cash. As Zalika strode into her new estate, she was no longer the same Zalika who had been ejected from the apartment lobby. She was now Mrs. Zalika Okafor, the CEO of Okafor Legacy Holdings LLC. Concurrently, in the penthouse at the Sovereign Kwesi, and Anaya's life was at its zenith. This project right here, babe? Kwesi said one night, pouring champagne for Anaya. This is going to change the game. Kwesi, after successfully kicking Zalika out, felt truly invincible. His building business was frantically seeking out some brand new projects. I have inside info. His eyes were gleaming with greed. Some prime land, thousands of acres down in South Georgia, is about to hit the market. Word is it's being rezoned for a luxury development. I absolutely must land the construction contract. Anaya was busy taking selfies with her champagne and was only half listening to him. Oh, that's great. Does this mean our wedding can be in Turks and Caicos? And you know I want that new Birkin bag, the one in crocodile skin. Absolutely anything for you, Quasi said, but privately. He felt slightly anxious. To land such a massive project, he'd need a huge infusion of capital. He needed investors. His company, in truth, had accumulated quite a bit of debt to finance their opulent lifestyle. I'll set up meetings with every single possible investor, Quasi murmured. After a few days, Quasi heard whispers in Atlanta business circles. Did you hear? A contact mentioned a new heavyweight investor making waves, buying a Cascade mansion in cash, and hiring a consultant from Midtown. That man, Sekou the Fixer. And their name? Quincy asked, a glint in his eye. Interesting. No one knows precisely. They're incredibly secretive, but the firm's name is Okafor Legacy Holdings, LLC. Does it ring a bell? Quincy shook his head. An old-fashioned name, probably just some old money. Just now activating their assets. This is the opportunity. Quincy immediately ordered his secretary to secure a meeting with Okafor Legacy Holdings. He was determined to pitch his development proposal for South Georgia. He had no idea the very lands he desired were the ones specified in Zalika's deed. The invitation came through. Okafor Legacy Holdings LLC expressed interest in hearing the proposal from Quincy's firm. The meeting was set for the CEO's residence, the Cascade Mansion. Quincy felt absolutely on top of the world. See, they invited me. My reputation must precede me. That morning, Quincy donned his finest suit and rehearsed his pitch in the mirror. He was hell-bent on impressing this enigmatic investor. Upon arriving at the mansion, the tall wrought iron gates parted slowly for him. He stepped into a grand yet chillingly stark foyer. The walls were cold marble, the furniture heavy and antique. A formal assistant greeted him. Good afternoon, Mr. Quincy. If you'll please wait in the meeting room, our CEO will be with you shortly. Quincy was escorted to a vast library, now a boardroom. On one side stood an immensely long mahogany table. On the other, towering windows gazed out upon a perfect garden. At the far end, a man sat with a laptop. Sekou. Quincy assumed he was in charge. Good afternoon, sir. Sekou glanced up. His eyes were like ice. I am Sekou the consultant. Please take a seat, Mr. Quincy. Our CEO is on her way. As Quincy sat, a flicker of nervousness began to creep in. The room's atmosphere was oppressive, the silence deafening. 5 minutes felt like an eternity. Then the double doors behind Quincy swung open. Quincy didn't turn around. He could hear the sound of footsteps, high heels, click, clack, click, clack, a steady rhythmic cadence upon the cold marble floor. My apologies for the delay. A voice echoed, familiar yet impossible. Quincy froze solid. He recognized that voice. But this version was cold, dripping with authority. He swiveled his chair slowly as the footsteps halted at the head of the table. Zalika stood there. Her hair was impeccably styled, and she wore a navy blue power dress that perfectly contoured her frame. Reading glasses were perched on her nose, her makeup subtle yet professional. She gazed at Quincy, her eyes devoid of any hatred. No love, nothing at all, only the vacant look of a superior to a subordinate. Quincy's mouth fell open, but no words escaped. Zalika calmly took her seat at the head of the table. Sekou stood by her side, handing her a tablet. Zalika glanced at Quincy, then smiled. The smile never touched her eyes. Good afternoon, Mr. Quincy. She stated, her crisp voice commanding the entire room. I am Zalika Okafor, the CEO of Okafor Legacy Holdings, LLC. She leaned forward slightly. Please begin your presentation. I hear you're quite interested in the parcels of land in South Georgia. Zalika paused, letting her words sink in. Then casually she continued in a relaxed tone. Coincidentally, all of the land you desire for your ambitious project is in fact mine. Silence. The quiet in the meeting room was so dense Quincy could hear his heart pounding in his ears. A joke. It had to be a joke. But Zalika's eyes, which once looked at him with such adoration, were now as frigid as the marble floor. Zalika, Quincy barely managed to speak, his voice shattering. It's impossible. 2,000 acres Alcafor's entire legacy. How could you afford this? Zelika leaned back, dismissing his question entirely as she addressed Seiko. Mr. Seiko, what do you think of the initial proposal from Questi Construction? Seiko, previously silent as a shadow, finally spoke. His voice was flat, lethal. Conceptually ambitious, but financially it is fundamentally weak. Mr. Quincy, your proposal lacks a sufficient risk analysis, and your projected profits are wildly optimistic. Quincy felt a shock like ice water being thrown on him. He'd come to charm a naive investor, not to be interrogated. Hold on, Quincy said, struggling for composure as his usual arrogance began to resurface. He searched for a logical explanation. Ah, I see it now. Zelika is merely a figurehead here. This man Seiko, he's the one pulling the strings. You just got lucky, Zel, he said, adopting the soft, cajoling tone that had always worked on her before. I don't know what's happened to you, but this is serious business. Perhaps we could still collaborate. You know me after all. I'm Atlanta's premier builder. Zelika offered a small, chilling smile. Oh, I know you very well, Quincy. She stood. I don't have much more time, but I will give you a chance. Hope instantly flared in Quincy's eyes. My team, Zelika glanced at Seiko, is going to perform due diligence, a complete financial diligence of your company. We need to see your books, your list of assets, and your outstanding debts. We won't invest a single dollar into a company lacking transparency. Quincy froze. Revealing his financials would be catastrophic. His company was nowhere near as sound as he claimed. Why must this be so complicated? He pleaded. It's me, Zell. He paused. Your former husband. Which is precisely why, Mr. Quincy, Seiko interjected. We must remain professional. Take it or leave it. Should you refuse this audit, we will consider your proposal withdrawn and present our land to another developer. I understand your competitors in Buckhead are quite interested. The threat was clear. Quincy was completely trapped. Withdrawing meant losing the project of a lifetime. Moving forward meant exposing his vulnerabilities. Fine, Quincy said, his voice strained. Fine, do the audit. I have nothing to hide. Zelika simply nodded. Mr. Seiko's team will be in touch. Good afternoon. Quincy was escorted from the mansion. He climbed into his car, his knees weak and shaking. He couldn't tell if he'd just dodged a bullet or walked straight into a snare. All he knew was that this new Zelika terrified him. Quincy arrived back at his apartment at the Sovereign, an absolute wreck. Babe, Anaya chirped, leaping up from the couch. She was dressed in new silk lingerie. So how did it go? Are we wealthy? Can we start planning our wedding in Turks now? Just be quiet for a second, Anaya. I need to think, Quincy yelled, slinging his jacket onto the floor. Anaya looked stunned. Hey, what are you shouting at me for? Quincy just paced back and forth. The investor situation is complicated. It's a complete disaster. What do you mean by complicated? Did they reject the proposal? Anaya questioned, a nervous edge creeping into her voice. No, not exactly. But my God, you are absolutely not going to believe this. Quasi ran a hand through his hair. The investor, the CEO, it's Zalika. Anaya went completely still. What did you say, Zalika? The woman from the streets. She's hardly on the streets now, Quasi snarled. She's changed. She owns a mansion in Cascade. She has a financial advisor. She owns the land itself. The color drained from Anaya's perfect face. This was her absolute worst nightmare. Not out of any love for Quasi, but because her status, her lavish life, and her entire future relied on the contents of Quasi's wallet. And now his finances were threatened by the one woman she despised more than anyone. It must be a bluff, Anaya shrieked. She isn't that intelligent. Surely she found some rich old man to support her. Yes, that must be it. She's just some man's plaything. Quasi didn't seem to hear her. She wants to audit my company. What am I supposed to do? Anaya's panic quickly morphed into pure rage. That woman, Who on earth does she think she is coming back to ruin everything? I'll deal with her. Anaya hissed. Deal with what? Just stay out of it. But a plan was already forming in Anaya's mind. She knew exactly where Atlanta's new black elite congregated. She would track Zalika down. She would publicly disgrace the woman, reminding her exactly what her place was. A few days later, using a contact, Anaya pinpointed Zalika's location, a high-end boutique cafe in Buckhead's new business district. Anaya made her entrance with maximum impact sporting designer clothes from the newest collection, a statement handbag, and flawless makeup. She saw Zalika sitting by herself in a corner reviewing documents on a tablet while sipping tea. Anaya strode over and slammed her palm down on the table, creating a deliberate scene. Well, well, well. Look what the cat dragged in. Anaya announced, her voice raised for everyone's benefit. It's Mrs. Zalika Okafor, is it not? Climbing the ladder quickly, aren't we, from being thrown out of a lobby to lounging in a place like this? Zalika slowly raised her gaze, glanced at Anaya, then returned her attention to her tablet. She said absolutely nothing. That cold dismissal fueled Anaya's anger. Hey, I am talking to you. You cow. Don't you dare play deaf. Who do you possibly think you are? You are harassing Kwesi. Stay away from him because he belongs to me now. Zalika heaved a sigh. She set her tablet down on the table. Belongs to you? Zalika inquired, her voice perfectly level. Possessions are typically objects. People cannot be owned, Miss Anaya. Don't you dare lecture me. I know what you're up to. You came back to snatch Kwesi from me, didn't you? Now that he's successful? Zalika let out a soft chuckle, a chilling laugh. Snatch Kwesi, Miss Anaya. Why on earth would I bother retrieving the garbage I already threw away? Anaya's face flushed with fury. Zalika rose to her feet, now meeting Anaya at eye level. Listen to me very carefully, Zalika whispered, but her intensity forced Anaya to take a step back. I have zero interest in Kwesi. I'm only interested in acquiring his company. And for your information, Zalika's eyes flicked to the showy handbag Anaya was clutching. Kwesi came to me pleading for me to finance his project. He isn't even capable of funding your lifestyle without groveling to me. You're a liar. Ah, true. Zalika produced a solid black metal centurion card from her wallet. But today I am feeling especially charitable. She beckoned the waiter. The bill, please, and for this woman as well. It's on me. Zalika stared at Anaya. Think of it as a donation. You clearly need it more than I. Snatching her tablet, she walked out, leaving Anaya paralyzed with shame, becoming a public spectacle for the entire cafe. The bait had worked. Kwesi was reeling from the urgent demand to surrender all his financial records to Seku's team. Meanwhile, Zalika was crushing Anaya in the cafe. Seku's people convened in the Cascade Mansion strategy room. This is not a company, Miss Zalika, Seku stated, gesturing to the screen displaying the finances of Kwesi Constructions, Inc. It is a house of cards built on nothing. Elaborate, Zalika commanded. First, Seku began, the materials. He bills clients for grade A cement, but our records show he buys grade C. He pockets a 40% profit from material fraud alone. That is illegal and incredibly dangerous. Zalika recalled a small bridge project Kwesi had once boasted about. A wave of nausea hit her. Secondly, his debts, Seku went on. He doesn't have bank loans. He is far too clever for that. He indebts himself to small suppliers, sand pits and local hardware stores, and small equipment rental companies. He stalls their payments for months, even years, fully aware they lack the legal resources to challenge him. The supplier list appeared on screen. Zalika recognized a few names. And, thirdly, taxes, Seku said. He keeps 2 sets of books, one for himself and one for the IRS. The scale of his tax evasion is vast. Zalika sat stunned. The man she was married to for 10 years, the man she'd nursed through illness, was nothing but a con artist, an extortionist, and a common thief. Good, Zalika said, her voice unshaken. Seku looked at her. Good. Yes, this provides leverage. What is our next move? Kwesi's attention is fixed on us and those 2,000 acres, Seku explained. He fails to see that his debts to small suppliers are his weakest point. I want you to leak. Seku started, but Zalika cut in. No, I want you to buy all of that debt. Seku grinned. I anticipated that. I've already prepared 3 shell corporations in Delaware. We will acquire every single outstanding invoice. From those suppliers, we will be paying cash. The suppliers will be overjoyed. They will be more than happy, Zalika affirmed. And Quasi, Seku added, will be clueless. He is only going to feel relieved. Because the debt collectors will stop hounding him. He'll assume we're about to inject capital. What's the timeline? Zalika asked. I just need 1 week. In a week, Quisi Constructions Inc. will no longer be indebted to any of the small merchants, Seku stated. He will be indebted to me. Precisely as Seku foresaw, Quasi's life suddenly felt easier. The calls from furious suppliers stopped. He interpreted this as a very good sign. He believed the news of his impending partnership with Aqua for Legacy Holdings had frightened his creditors into silence. He was terribly mistaken. As the pressure faded, Quasi decided it was time for his final move. He needed to secure Zalika not on a professional basis but a personal one. He knew the old Zalika was weak for giving and still adored him. He dispatched a bouquet of white roses, once Zalika's favorite, to the Cascade Mansion, accompanied by a short note. I know I was wrong. Let's talk just like we used to. Dinner at our special place. Zalika nearly hurled the flowers into the trash. However, Seku held her back. Go, Seku advised. Let him entangle himself further. That evening, Zolika went to the lavish restaurant, the very place Quasi had once proposed. He was already waiting, looking flawless, and had ordered the finest wine on their list. Zal? He began taking her hand across the table. Zalika permitted it, her touch feeling icy and distant. I'm begging for your forgiveness. Zalika merely stared at him, waiting. I realize I was completely wrong, Quincy went on. His eyes welled with tears. The performance was flawless. Anaya means nothing. I was under pressure, Zal. Work has been stressful and you were occupied with your mother. I felt so alone. Was that really my fault? Was it my fault? Zalika questioned, her tone eerily calm. No, it was all my fault. Quessy hurried to backtrack. I was so blind. I didn't appreciate the jewel I possessed until I saw you in that meeting room recently. I realized just how incredible you are. We can be an unbeatable team, Zal. Quessy leaned closer. I've broken things off with Anaya. She's completely moved out. This was a blatant lie. Anaya was using his card to shop at that exact moment. We can begin again, Quessy whispered intently. We'll conquer Atlanta, you with your properties. And me with my expertise. Forget about Seku. You don't need him. I'm all you need. Zalika slowly pulled her hand away. Your charm offensive is impressive, Quasi, much better than your last pitch, she remarked with an icy tone. Quasi looked taken aback. Perhaps you're right, Zalika mused, feigning contemplation. Hope flickered in Quasi. We do need to resolve this, but I won't mix my personal life and business. So yes, let's resolve the business aspect first, Zalika stated. I have already seen the results from your audit. And? Quessy asked, his voice laced with anxiety. And we must have a serious discussion, Zalika replied. Tomorrow at 10 in the morning. Feel free to bring your lawyer. After that is concluded, we can then discuss us. With that, Zalika rose to her feet, leaving Quessy with the costly wine and a smug smile, convinced that he had just secured his victory. At 10 o'clock in the morning, in the mansion's meeting room, Quessy came alone, without counsel. He carried another bouquet of roses, feeling supremely confident. He believed the meeting was a simple formality before he and Zalika would reunite. He then stepped into the room. The room's atmosphere was anything but romantic. Zalika was already positioned at the head of the table, with Seku standing right beside her. The long mahogany table held no coffee service, just imposing stacks of legal documents. Zal, babe, Quasi greeted, attempting a warm tone, attempting to break the tension with his flowers. Sit down, Quasi, Zalika commanded, her voice like sharp glass. Quasi took a seat, his smile faltering. "Let us proceed," Zalika stated flatly. "Mr. Seku." Seku then moved forward, setting a thick binder down in front of Kwesi. "Mr. Kwesi, this binder contains a list of all debts for Kwesi Constructions, Inc." Seku continued. "To Garcia Aggregates, you owe $100,000, and to Bolt Hardware, you owe $50,000. To Iberian Machinery, $200,000, among others. Your total verified debt with these 12 suppliers amounts to $500,000. Kwesi's face went white. "What is the meaning of this? I am currently in negotiations with them." "Those negotiations are no longer necessary," Zalika cut in, "because every single one of them has been paid in full." Kwesi stared at Zalika bewildered. "Paid by who?" Zalika gestured to herself. "By me." Seku then slid a second binder forward detailing 3 different investment companies. "In association with Okafor Legacy Holdings LLC, we have now acquired all of your outstanding invoices. Copies of the official debt assignment deeds are right there." As Quincy opened the first one, his heart felt like it stopped. "Let me be clear." Quincy Zalika leaned closer, staring directly into the eyes of the man who had ruined her life. "Your company now owes nothing to those small merchants." Zalika let the silence hang in the air. "Your company is now indebted to me and only me." Quincy found he couldn't breathe. I will pay in installments." "Oh, of course," Zalika said coolly. "But I have no interest in a business arrangement with you, nor am I interested in any reconciliation. I want my money back." She slammed the documents down before Quincy. "As per the assignment clause, the full debt is now due immediately. You have 24 hours to produce $500,000 in cash." 24 hours? That's impossible. Nobody has that kind of liquid cash. Quincy shouted, his composure finally breaking. "I do," Zalika replied icily. You trapped me." A trap. Zalika rose to her feet. "I am simply claiming what is rightfully mine, just as you once denied me everything. Should you fail to pay in 24 hours, Zalika added a third binder to the stack our legal team is prepared to immediately file. A lien on that penthouse in the Sovereign, on your office, and all of your heavy machinery. Good morning, Mr. Quincy. 24 hours. Until that moment, Quincy never realized how brief that time was. After storming out of Zelika's mansion, he avoided his apartment. In a state of pure panic, he spent the first hour driving without direction, shouting curses at Zelika, Seku, and the universe. The second hour was spent on the phone. His first call was to his bank manager. "I need a loan for $500,000. I'll use my South Georgia project as collateral." The bank manager just laughed on the other end. "Quincy, don't be ridiculous. That project isn't even secured yet. Besides, you've maxed out your credit line financing. Well, you know what?" Quincy slammed the phone down without another word. From the 3rd to the 10th hour, he called every business contact and every so-called friend he'd ever treated to fine wine. Every minor official he'd tipped. The replies were identical. "Oof, that's rough, Quincy," or "Sorry, I'm not in town right now," or the call would just go unanswered. Word of his downfall, which somehow escaped from that meeting, spread like wildfire. By the 11th hour, utterly desperate, he finally went back to the penthouse. He found Inaya modeling a new dress she had purchased only that afternoon. "What do you think, babe? Looks good, right?" "Sell it," Quincy yelled. "What, sell it all?" Quincy roared, his eyes bloodshot. "Sell the bags, sell the jewelry. We are completely broke." Inaya's face went white. "These are gifts, not investments. Are you insane?" "Zelika set me up," Quincy ranted. "That conniving woman bought up all my debts. She's given us 24 hours to pay $500,000. Inaya wasn't listening to the details. She only heard that the money was gone. The next morning at 10 o'clock sharp, precisely 24 hours after the demand was made, the penthouse doorbell chimed. Quincy hadn't slept a wink. He opened it, hoping it was Alika coming to cancel her threat after having a change of heart. No, before the door stood Seiko, calm as stone. Behind him, 2 well-dressed attorneys waited, and a uniformed man with a thick folder, the sheriff's deputy. Your time has expired, Mr. Kwesi, Seiko stated without emotion. Hold on, I just need more time. Time is a privilege you denied Zalika. Seiko cut in, stepping forward. As per the directive from the Fulton County Superior Court, we're here to execute the lien on this asset. The deputy began to state, as he affixed seizure notices to the foyer wall. No, you can't. This is my home, Quincy yelled in protest. Technically, it's the collateral against your debt to my client, the lawyer corrected him. You and this young woman. He glanced at Anaya scornfully. Must vacate the premises within 1 hour. Gather your essential personal belongings. An hour later, the lobby of the Sovereign became a public spectacle. Kwesi, the very man who a mere 10 years prior felt like he ruled the building, was forcibly removed by the same security guards who had once ejected Zalika. Inaya trailed behind him, sobbing uncontrollably while dragging 2 suitcases packed with designer bags. Kwesi was no longer just bankrupt on paper. He was now literally homeless, right back at the rock bottom he built for Zalika. On the sweltering pavement outside the lobby, the true spectacle was only just starting. This is entirely your fault, Inaya screamed, pounding on Quincy's chest. You claim to be wealthy. You said you were powerful, but you're nothing but a fraud. Kwesi, having nothing left to lose, unleashed all his pent-up fury on the one target he had left. My fault. This is your fault, who demanded Birkin bags weekly, who demanded trips to Turks. You bled me dry, you parasite. A parasite. Inaya's mouth fell open in disbelief. Their argument grew so loud it drew a crowd, a public spectacle. They were oblivious to someone across the street recording the entire confrontation on a phone. This is not what I signed up for, Inaya screeched. I am finished. She hauled her luggage away, attempting to flag down a taxi. And where will you go? You can't survive without me, Kwesi taunted. Just watch me. Inaya stormed off to a lavish hotel nearby, attempting to secure a room with the limitless credit card Kwesi had provided. I do apologize, ma'am, it's been declined, the receptionist stated coldly. She presented another card. Declined. Every single one was declined. Kwesi had cut her off, or the bank had. Panic set in for Inaya. She started calling her high society friends. Darling, I'm in a bind. Can you help me out? The line went dead. She tried another. Hello, you're breaking up. The phone went silent. She was completely unaware that Zalika, using her new connections, hadn't lifted a finger. Sekou only needed to leak Kwesi's audit report to a handful of influential people. Word that Kwesi was a fraud, and Inaya the mistress tied to a bankrupt con artist, had already spread, had circulated through every elite Atlanta group chat. She was now radioactive. Nobody would touch her. That very night, the video of her screaming match with Kwesi in front of their building went viral across local gossip sites. Her stunning face was now synonymous with financial ruin and trashy public displays. Her modeling career was over in an instant. The doors to high society slammed shut. Inaya, who had once felt she ruled the entire world, was now forced to sell her genuine designer bags and some fakes Kwesi gave her she'd just discovered piece by piece, simply to get by. She was relegated to the obscurity she despised. 2 weeks following the seizure, Zalika was sitting with Sekou in her mansion's meeting room. The mahogany table was now laden with blueprints. Sekou announced that all assets of Kwesi Constructions Inc. had been fully liquidated. His equipment and the penthouse are sufficient to cover the $500,000 debt, plus all interest and associated legal costs. Good, Zalika responded. What about the penthouse? Shall we sell it? But Zalika simply shook her head no. Sell all the luxury furnishings, clear it out, and then deliver the keys to Mr. Zuberi over at the Heritage Bank. Instruct them to give it as a bonus gift to Kofi. Sekou arched an eyebrow, surprised by her wry, cynical sense of humor. Kofi, the bank teller. Yes, he deserves it. He was the very first person who helped me. Very well, ma'am. And for the 2,000 acres, shall we proceed with the luxury development plan? Zalika rose and walked toward the large window. Gazing out at the garden, her father's letter came to mind: build your own kingdom. Quincy sought to build a palace for the wealthy one that people like me could only view from beyond the gates. Zalika stated, I intend to do the exact opposite. She returned to the table, pointing at the new blueprints. I am going to build homes, she declared. Alcafor Legacy Holdings, LLC will use the initial 250 acres to construct dignified, subsidized housing complete with a new school and a small medical clinic. For whom? Sekou inquired, now genuinely intrigued. For the workers in our pecan groves, and for the owners of the small supply businesses, who were nearly ruined by Kwesi. They will receive priority and special discounts, and as for the machinery seized from Kwesi, we'll use it to construct their homes, Zalika said with a slight smile. It's poetic justice. Sekou regarded her with clear admiration. And that's not all, Zalika added. On another 25 acres, I want to build a training center. The Aquifor Center, a training facility dedicated to modern agribusiness and small business management. I want people like my father to have a chance to succeed without ever having to hide. Zalika wasn't merely seeking revenge, she was forging a legacy. And she was finally done with Kwesi. But the law was not. Kwesi was now living a meager existence in a shared apartment on the outskirts of town. He believed the worst was over. He thought that after Zalika took everything, he was finally free. Then one afternoon, while he was eating instant noodles, a sharp knock came at the door. Police. Mr. Kwesi, you're under arrest. What for my debt to Zalika is paid. This isn't about debt, the officer stated. This concerns the use of substandard materials on the Macon Bridge project, as well as tax fraud. Kwesi froze. How could they know he was unaware that Sekou, representing a client concerned for public safety, had anonymously delivered copies of Kwesi's double ledger and the lab results on the poor quality cement to the district attorney and the IRS? He built a bridge that might collapse Sekou, Zalika had said. It could kill people. This is no longer about just him and me. It's about justice. The news of Kwesi's arrest made local headlines. Elite developer falls amidst corruption and fraud allegations. From her mansion, Zalika watched the news on her large-screen TV. She saw Kwesi's gaunt, angry face as he was being escorted away. She felt nothing, no anger, no satisfaction. That chapter of her life was finally over. She switched off the TV. 1 year later, Alcafor Legacy Holdings LLC was no longer a dormant and secretive firm. The company had become one of the region's new economic pillars. In the South, Zalika had transformed her pecan groves with sustainable methods in turn raising wages for her staff and erecting modern facilities. The Alcafor Training Center had opened its doors, and its first class had graduated. The initial phase of subsidized housing was occupied. Zalika was no longer addressed as Madam Director with a hint of fear. The longtime workers now called her Miss Zalika, or Adi's daughter, with warmth and respect. She stood on a hill overlooking her farm, watching the green expanse glow under the afternoon sun. She was no longer that disheveled woman in the lobby of the Sovereign, nor the icy woman from the boardroom. She was Zalika whole. Then she heard footsteps approaching from behind. Zalika, the view is stunning, Sekou said. He'd traded his formal suit for a simple, casual linen shirt. These days he spent more time in the country than in Atlanta. Yes, Zalika agreed with a genuine smile. My father used to call this place an anchor. It seems this anchor can be used to build so much. You've built your kingdom, Zalika, Sekou said. Zalika corrected him gently. We built it. Sekou smiled. My Atlanta team keeps asking when I'm returning. I suppose I owe them a response. And what is your response? Zalika asked, looking at him. Sekou's reply wasn't verbal. He stepped closer, met Zalika's gaze, and then he held out his hand. My work as a consultant, the cleaner, is done, he said. No, Zalika replied, taking his hand. Their connection was firm. Now I need you as my partner. They stood watching the sunset over their kingdom, a kingdom not built upon greed or deceit, but from the ashes of betrayal rebuilt on a foundation of justice and a new legacy. Did you enjoy this story, and where in the world are you tuning in from? Let's connect in the comments. If you enjoyed the story, consider supporting me with a super thanks so I can continue to create more content just like this. I truly appreciate all of your wonderful support. I'm excited to read your thoughts on the story. On your screen now, you will find 2 new life stories that I think you'll love. My channel has much more to discover. Please don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next life story. With love and respect.